Okay, I do believe we're live. Awesome. So, this is the Tiny Titans finals. Uh, I will soon have a co commentator, which will be Mecca, who has commentated with me before. But I will spend a little bit of time to go over who our competitors will be. So, the finals is, as the title says, Aminatou versus Esper. They're both control decks in a way. Esper is arguably a mid range deck with just a suspicious amount of removal. That's how he's phrased it, how they've phrased it. Um, but it's a bit nebulous as to whether it's a mid range deck or control deck or something, you know? Um, and Aminatou, or Helix, is very much a control deck. Very few win cons, all the answers. So it'll be very interesting to see how it goes. This is going to be a best of 5 match, and it will be 3 colors v 3 colors. They have a decent amount of overlap. Not a whole lot of overlap, but with both white and black in both of their color identities, it's there's going to be some similar cards thrown around. Um, I personally think Esper is probably a little favored here, given that it's basically on Helix to provide answers for Esper's threats, because Esper has many more threats than Helix does. So we will definitely see how this goes. All right. The game is starting up. Um, I I am personally rooting for Aminatou for many reasons, um, but mostly because I like Aminatou a little bit more than Mathis. But I also might have like a slight vendetta against Esper. Um, so both players keeping their hands, and we'll be seeing, yep, standard elegant parlor. This is going to be a very slow game. And every now and again, I'll be checking the chat, but largely just to make sure that my audio is not borked and that people can see what's going on. Right now, that should be good, but don't want to mess up things early. Okay, so we have a Johnny Nakado Pariah. This is a horrifying card. Um, for this matchup, it'll probably just be a 2 mana 3/3, but that's still more than enough. It also will require 2 different removal spells to answer. So, very strong start. Immediately kind of putting Aminatou on the back foot. So, we'll see how that goes. Aminatou, of course, having all of the answers in the world. So, you know, this isn't going to be too much of a problem, but still not something you want to see Ami have to face. Let's see what happens. Okay, standard dam, getting rid of a Johnny. The 2/1 Cat Warrior token can sit around for a little bit. It becomes a bit of a problem by being something that can get rid of Aminatou, but until that happens, Ami is just chilling. Esper probably running out Mathis. Yep. So, just yet another threat. That's the name of the game. Just keep spamming threats. Notably, Mathis's main ability is not going to do much against Ami. Ami is running very few creatures, and so it's not going to matter all that much. Yep, good old momentum breaker, flickerable removal. And yeah, we're seeing a little bit of early pressure by Esper, but nothing Ami can't handle. And the almighty Mystic sank. So, if for whatever reason you haven't been watching the previous games and you are not familiar with how this deck rolls, Mystic Sanctuary is a very core part of Ami's game plan. It can get instants and sorceries from the grave, put it back on top, usually removal. Oh boy, that's a broadside. And then Ami can flicker the Mystic Sank to get repeatable, get kind of locks out of the game. Broadside is horrifying here. Yep, because that is immediately taking Helix down to 4 health. That means 2 burn spells, or just the right burn spell, will end up killing Helix here. Ideally, a Kaya's Guile would be played, but that's assuming they have Kaya's Guile. Probably just Ami Flicker Momentum Breaker to get rid of Broadside. Yep. Notably, Momentum Breaker can sacrifice if needed to gain 1 life. In this case, they're just going to defer to Thunder Trap Trainer. This is looking to be a very fast game. Esper had a very fast start. I would not be surprised if Esper has the 2 burn spells necessary. Or just Ghostfire Slice, yeah. And there we are. So, game 2, no sideboards. It's best of 5. This time, Ami's on the play. I don't think play draw will make too much of a difference in this match, but we'll see. In the previous game, Ami started on the play and still got run down, so probably Island Ponder Keep. Yep. Okay. So we'll see what happens. These two decks have both been in the format for quite a while, and they have played against each other many times. So these are 2 experienced players that are experts in their decks, playing, basically rematching each other. This will feel fairly familiar to both of them. Another turn to a Johnny. Okay. Well, that is rough. Also turn to a Brainstorm again. Okay. Seeing very similar starts here. The real question is, will Esper have Broadside again? Broadside was basically a 3 mana 7 damage, which was brutal. Interesting. Removal spell? Not getting a Surveil land. Okay, I guess not. Perhaps they have the Surveil land in hand. That's what I would be assuming if I was Esper. Yep, temporary lockdown is a clean way to deal with both Johnny and the Cat Warrior token. Lockdown is flickerable, which can be quite relevant. In this matchup, less so, but Mathis has a lot of 3-drops. old Arkham's Astrolabe. That would be a good reason why they would fetch for a snow basic. Okay, good old Momentum Breaker. This feels very similar, although Ami seems to have what they need. Okay, Inquisition, strong. And this is about the hand you would expect. Just a bunch of removal and a stock up to get more removal. Yep, get rid of the stock up because that's just a really good card in Ami, especially. I'm using Aminatou and Ami interchangeably, and that's also what Helix refers to themselves on the server. So, yeah, just roll with it. It'll work out. They're basically the same person at this point. So, Seasoned Pyromancer is a very sick card for this matchup because it is big enough to not be hit by Pinnacle Star Cage and creates a bunch of threats. Probably, yep, Ami, down ticking, Temp Lock, maybe. And then use a Shieldred's Edict on the Pyromancer. Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. Really doesn't matter if they hold up the interaction or not. Technically speaking, there might be a haste threat, so might as well hold on to it. I assume, yep. Here they go swinging, use Shieldred's Edict. Theoretically, if they cast Shieldred's Edict and they flash in a Bowmasters here, Esper could get ahead. But no. Okay, I assume here you just do a bit of extra nonsense. Yep. Dropkick Aminatou. Stop the value. Oh, no. Get rid of... Okay. Maybe. I'm not sure that'll help. Theoretically, if Esper has a bolt, Pinnacle Star Cage only gets rid of... Yep. Oh, interesting. Okay. Sure. I was about to say, Pinnacle Star Cage only gets rid of creatures and artifacts. So it would, in fact, not get rid of the flipped Ajani. However, there is a long goodbye in hand, so it doesn't matter all that much. Here, we're seeing Pinnacle Star Cage. That will get rid of the Arkham's Astrolabe as well, but not the Momentum Breaker. So that means that Pinnacle Star Cage can be flickered for Astrolabe value as well. That's the extra powerful thing about Star Cage and our good old friend. Oh, where did it go? Temporary Lockdown. Yep, 5 mana for Mathis. Might as well. I foresee some sort of removal. Probably. Okay, Oath of Kaya works. Gaining some life. I was going to say Aminatou, Flicker Momentum Breaker, but either one works. one of the upsides that Ami has against Mathis is counterspells. However, that could change post board. Okay, good old Meticulous Archive. One card in hand versus Esper's 3. So while Ami has a better board state, Esper has more virtual card advantage. And if you don't want to be top decking against the other player, because that just leads to a bad time usually. So probably, yep, flickering Momentum Breaker, getting rid of the Flame Slash, which Flame Slash and cards like it are going to be just kind of useless against Ami here. Fatal Push as well, because again, there's just no creatures. Long Goodbye, get rid of Ami. I imagine, so you can either tap out to play Mathis once more, or play another threat from hand. Heck, you could even just pass here, but I'm not 100% sure that's the right call to make. Okay. That puts the ball in Aminatou's court. Theoretically speaking, we are getting close to Pinnacle Stargate value. So, for 8 mana, they can get 2 2/2 robots. Oh, there's the stock up. Yep, picked up from Mystic Sank. So this is going to pull Helix ahead, and now we have Helix's 3 cards versus Esper's 1 card. And that's the power of stock up in this deck, is that you are just going to get 2 cards you want, have more cards than your opponent. This Fable probably getting countered or something. Yep, there's a mana drain. That'll help recast Aminatou or Pinnacle Stargate value. Either one. I would probably recast Aminatou, down take on Momentum Breaker. Force the last card no matter what. That is what's happening. Yep, and there's the useless Fatal Push. Okay, now you're in a very bad spot if you were Esper. Best you can hope for is a Titan, as you will have enough mana to cast and recast a Titan. Okay, well, that's just terrible. Yep, paying 7 for Mathis, doesn't matter, it's getting countered. Or removed, either one. Yep. And now, technically speaking, Oath of Kaya is sort of a clock, although I suspect they're just going to be down-ticking on Pinnacle Stargate. But we'll see. Yeah, sure. Upticking also works. And now you're seeing just the sheer power of Aminatou once they get going. Yep, top decking lands is not what you want in the slightest. I guess you'd tap out to play Mathis, force another removal spell. You'll whittle them down eventually. Yep, down tick on Nowhere to Run or Momentum Breaker. Either one, doesn't matter. Top deck creature removal, maybe? Thunder Trap Offsprung. This is going to generate even more card advantage and be a very small clock, but still a clock. So I think this game is pretty much wrapped up. This is game 2, so there'll be 1-for-1. Wow, Orcish Bowmasters. Okay, if this resolves, that would be a solid swing. It does not, so it doesn't matter. There we are. Yeah, so yeah, you might as well play this out if you're Esper, but yep, there's Entreat the Angels. You're about to get introed next turn. Yep, Entreat Bliss Counterspell. Nothing that Esper does matters at this point. Yep, there we go. So now they both have access to their sideboards. So we will see what happens. I have access to their deck lists, so I can possibly give a rundown of what could possibly be sideboarded. But obviously that's not a guarantee. So, Esper has Disruptor Flute in the sideboard and Pithing Needle, both of which will, of course, go in. Red Elemental Blast and Pyroblast will probably also go in. And honestly, that's probably it. I don't think anything else in their sideboard particularly matters in this matchup. And obviously, you can just get rid of cards like Flame Slash and Fatal Push. I suspect in Aminatou's sideboard, Hydroblast, possibly Unlicensed Hearse, and probably Ashiok Dream Renter will be going in. Some extra inevitability. Ashiok is very solid, is a solid clock as well as good grave hate for the Titans. And Hydroblast is just good at dealing with pretty much every single threat in the deck. Okay. Aminatou going down to 5 is really bad. Not not unrecoverable, of course, but in a control mirror, every single card matters. Ripples. Okay. So this is kind of one of Esper's favorite cards in their deck. It can get mill for Titans as well as just generate incremental card advantage. Life loss, especially in this matchup, does not matter. So we'll see what Ripples gets. But for now, there's Helix definitely not holding anything up. Okay. Probably grab Red Elemental Blast. That is exactly what is happening. Reason why Unholy Heat's sticking around is Unholy Heat can get rid of Planeswalkers. Okay, good old Inquisition. That is a hand, yeah. Just counterspell, removal, card draw. Probably get rid of Cryogen Relic here. Yep. Um, there's honestly a good chance that you won't be able to see these windows that get opened up. Uh, just because of the way the software works.
Awesome. So, this is.
But who knows? Maybe you're able to. Either way, I'm closing the window down. Okay, that is a Barrogoyf. Of course, you take the Barrogoyf here, unless you have some shenanigans you want to pull. Just having that extra big scary threat. And now there are more than enough cards to escape Flage, so that's something else Helix has to worry about. I would probably only play out Flage once all of your main cards in hand are exhausted. Yep, good old Drown in the Lock. So, let's see. Okay, Cling to Dust, get rid of Flage. Gain a little bit of life. Okay. Ripples. Is it worth grabbing Bowmasters here? Probably. Bowmasters is a very strong card. Yeah. Going down to 7 is a bit risky, but it really only matters with Kaya's Guile. But you're seeing just the power of Ripples here. Helix is at 2 cards in hand. Esper is at 6 cards in hand. Esper has all of the advantage right now. Yep, you just hold on to things, flash in Bowmasters, force them to use up mana on their turn so that you can untap and play yet another threat. And that is exactly what is happening here. So you just counterspell it, use up mana drain. Yep. Red Elemental Blast. Okay, that is brutal. Okay. So Bowmasters resolves, and there's going to be yet another threat, most likely, here. Sure, Fatal Push might as well. You got a 1-1. Not really that much of a threat. However, yeah, those can stay down there. No reason to grab anything with ripples at this point, just because Kaya's Guile is a. Not Kaya's Guile, Oath of Kaya is a card in Helix's deck. Kaya's Guile is in Mathis. So let's see. What threat will Mathis play out? Broadside. Okay. Yep. Broadside. Slap for 3. Deal 2 more damage with the Orc Army? No. Doesn't need to. Okay, Brainstorm. Good thing that Orcish Bowmasters is not a problem anymore. And yeah, Audrey is completely right that Ami's main win con this game is going to be milling out Esper. Ripples is not a May ability. So it is a must mill 3 cards. That means that Mathis is burning through 4 cards a turn. And so as long as Aminatou can live another 5 turns, Esper will just mill themselves out. Helix, Lightning Helix, whacking the face of Helix. See, this isn't confusing at all. It's Esper control playing against Esper control, or Esper playing control versus Esper control, and using Lightning Helix against Helix. Yep, so here we're seeing just a bunch of beats. All the removal ever. Just smacking in with Goyf. Eventually. Probably get rid of Broadside if possible. Yep, there we are. Dropkick Broadside. Nethergoyf is, of course, huge. So, can Helix hold on? Okay. Kaya's Guile is brutal here. That is going to exile all cards and create a spirit. That gets rid of Cling to Dust as an option, but more importantly, stops a top deck of Mystic Sank or something that can tutor for Mystic Sank from being a really strong option. Ideally, Helix would get a board wipe. However, getting rid of Nethergoyf is also a solid option. The only problem is Nethergoyf can also escape. So, okay. Aminatou, Flicker, that. Interesting. Yep, get rid of Entreat the Angels. Not a good card to have on top right now. Yeah, you might as well grab Ghostfire Slice here. The risk is that theoretically, Aminatou could have Kaya's Guile. Not Kaya's Guile, Oath of Kaya. And that could be very, very dangerous. However, if Esper has a Bolt and a regular removal spell, Bolt plus Ghostfire Slice, that would be very good. Here, holding up Ghostfire Slice, might as well. This is forcing Aminatou to either have Oath of Kaya or die, pretty much. Theoretically, there are other options, but not many good options. Yeah, Pinnacle Star Cage is one of those options that is really not a good option. Because that leaves Mathis alive. And that's just lethal. Esper, close to milling out, but sometimes you can just get there before that happens. And there we are. Ghostfire Slice, Counterspell, Pyroblast, game. So, Esper has won 2 games. Ami has won 1. So, Aminatou needs to win the next 2 games to take it home. It is worth noting, technically speaking, there is a cash prize. This is not something that many people, I don't think anybody in this tournament particularly care much for the cash prize, but it is something that exists. Let me see if I can find what the prize is. Yes, so it's not a lot. Third place gets $15, second place gets $25, and first place gets $40. So it's not a very big cash prize. It's mostly for the glory, but it's something, you know. Um, for future reference, we are planning on having higher cash prizes and pay in events at some point, hopefully this year. Uh, but that's still in the works. Thank you very much. So, standard Drago shenanigans. Oof. Elegant Parlor surveilling Flage the bin is really rough. Not unbeatable, obviously, but not great. Okay, Cling to Dust, get rid of Flage. Ami probably would have liked the card draw, but when you get rid of Flage, when you have the opportunity to get rid of Flage, you use the opportunity to get rid of Flage. So, yep, Surveil land, surveilling all over. I believe, if I remember correctly, Mathis has 2 surveil lands. Yes, Mathis has 2 surveil lands. I don't think. Oh, nope. Both have 2 surveil lands. That's how you know they're control decks. Normal decks don't have 2 surveil lands. Normal decks only have 1 surveil land. This is me completely making things up, but still. Um. Okay. So Mathis, it's getting removed, but we all knew that. Esper knew that. Audrey, you are absolutely correct. This is going faster than expected. Uh, Aminatou is known for having very, very slow, grindy games. Um, and so I was expecting to sit here for a good 2 hours. Uh, this is a lot faster than I would have anticipated. Spooky Barrowglyph, power and toughness doesn't matter because it's dead. Here you're seeing Flooded Strand be kept up largely so that if Ami draws into a blue source, they can just fetch the, not a blue source, well, technically a blue source, but an island. They can just fetch for the Mystic Sank. However, there's a non-zero chance that they're going to need to crack the fetch here, but we'll see. Depends on if they need that instant speed interaction or not. Also, I have gotten the update that my co-commentator is likely not going to be commentating, uh, as you might have imagined. But that's okay. I think I've been doing pretty alright at commentating, but I always think it's more interesting to have 2 people at the booth, the metaphorical booth. Uh, yeah. So, Season Pyro, spooky card, again, a whole bunch of threats. We'll see how Helix responds. No matter what, this Season Pyromancer is essentially a 2-for-1. Unless, theoretically speaking, an overloaded dam would get rid of all of the threats, but that is 1 card out of however many. 1 card out of 40. And in all other scenarios, Helix, to get rid of everything here, will need 2 removal spells. 1 to get rid of the tokens, and 1 to get rid of the Pyromancer. Luckily, Nowhere to Run can be one of those, so it's not all that bad. But that, of course, relies on hitting a land drop here. Unless they have, I guess, a 1 mana removal spell, get rid of one elemental. Aminatou, down tick, get rid of Seasoned Pyromancer. Okay. Yep, March, get rid of Seasoned. Keep the elementals around. I've mentioned this previously, but Boggart Bog is a very interesting card in Aminatou specifically because flickering the bog will turn it into the Boggart Trawler to exile a yard and get a creature. So that's something that Esper needs to play around. Broadside is horrifying, as always. Slap for 4, play a Goyf, probably deal 2 more damage, but I'm not exactly sure. Yep, 2 more damage. And immediately, that is at least 4 damage that Broadside will deal, if not another 4 damage next turn if going unanswered. At least 4 damage, that is. Oath of Kaya gets rid of Broadside and gains life. Again, Helix does not have access to Lightning Helix, but Helix can have Makeshift Helix in Oath of Kaya. Yep, slap for 4. Play out something like Mathis. Yep, there's Mathis. Presumably, Helix will have to get rid of Nethergoyf here. 5 mana, Ami, down tick on Oath, get rid of Mathis, maybe? It's a bit complicated because gaining life is very nice. Yeah. Gaining life is nice, but Goyf needs to go. However, ugh. Yep, there's the Pithing Needle. So, it is worth noting, if Esper wins this game, they win the entire tournament, and we would have like a 45-minute match, which is not at all what I was expecting. I would expect this to go at least twice as long. But that is, of course, assuming that Mathis manages to close this out, which is a big if. Right now, they're fairly even. If Ami has a way to get rid of this Pithing Needle, then they are free to do a whole bunch of nonsense. Notably, something like Pinnacle Star Cage would get rid of Goyf and Pithing Needle and keep around Oath of Kaya, at least. Interesting. So this is going to grab good old Mystic Sank. Also, I think there's been a slight misplay. I think Helix should have cast Cling to Dust. But it might not matter. Here's a temporary lockdown. Get rid of Nethergoyf and Pithing Needle. Uptick Aminatou to get whatever they got on top. Oh, they didn't. They didn't grab Mystic Sank. Oh, because they needed the second white source, obviously. Okay. I understand what's going on now. Notably, temporary lockdown at this point, if they get rid of temporary lockdown, it will free both Momentum Breaker and Nowhere to Run, getting rid of Nethergoyf and discarding a card. So, even though it frees Pithing Needle, I don't think Esper wants to. Well, I was about to say, I don't think Esper wants to get rid of temporary lockdown, but evidently I'm wrong. Oh, Nowhere to Run doesn't get rid of Netherglyph. Never mind. We're just going to Momentum Breaker. Get rid of it. Freeze Pithing Needle. That's probably worthwhile. Alright. Esper probably plays another threat here. Escaping Netherglyph, yep. Yeah, that's the particularly annoying thing about Netherglyph. In this matchup specifically, it can just keep on being an annoying threat that needs to be gotten rid of. But hey, when life gives you board wipes, it all works out. Here, Uptick Ami. And we are cooking with gas. There's a decent chance Aminatou could stabilize. That said, 7 is a very vulnerable life total because Ghostfire Slice, oh, ripples. Ghostfire Slice plus Lightning Bolt will be lethal. Oh boy. Yep, Skyclave, get rid of Star Cage. As long as Esper can keep getting rid of the temporary removals for Pithing Needle and keep Pithing Needle around, Helix is going to have a bad time. And yeah, we're seeing here, after all of this time, Helix has not dealt a single point of damage to Esper. Esper's life going down to 15 was purely through fetches and shocks. So this ripples. The life does not matter. Okay. Holding up mana probably doesn't have anything useful to do. Here, you probably grab Ragavan. Yep. Ragavan has the particular advantage. Not only can it be dashed for haste, it also goes to hand at the end of turn. Ooh, yeah. Ami has not been able to use the blue blasts for quite some time, just because of how this has worked out. Is Helix really going to 1 here? No. Okay. To pop Nethergoyf or Skyclave? It probably has to be Nethergoyf, just because you need to respect the bolt. Theoretically, you can block Skyclave and then chump Nethergoyf to take 0 damage, but I would just get rid of Nethergoyf. Yep. Flashback, Cling to Dust, get rid of Nethergoyf, gain some life. That is very potent. But it all depends. What's this top deck? If it's a land, Ami is in a terrible spot. However, it doesn't look like it's a land. You can escape Cling to Dust to get another chance. Prismatic Ending on the Pithing Needle. Oh, that's brutal. Disruptor Flute in response. Oh, that's so bad. Okay. It's probably worth holding on to. You kind of have to hold on to Cling to Dust here because of the potential to mill a Titan. Yeah, leave those in the bin. Yep. So, Cling to Dust, get rid of something random. Probably Inquisition, just to remove a little bit of Delirium. Draw a card. Hope it's a removal spell. leave everything but Prismatic Ending because top, top decking Mystic Sank to get Prismatic Ending is pretty solid. Not exactly what you'd want, but it's not nothing. Okay, Ketramos. At this point, Ketramos is very much online. If Esper does not have exile-based removal, Ketramos will be a huge problem for the deck. None of those is exile-based removal. Probably grab the red Elemental Blast anyway. Although, it is worth noting that Esper at this point does need to be conscious of their life total. Ketramos is a real clock. Alright. Do they have exile-based removal? That is probably just Mathis. Yep. Alright. Yep, might as well put a bounty counter on it. And Helix keeps Ketramos. It's also worth noting that Cling to Dust, if it gets out, if you manage to escape it once more, will draw a total of 3 cards via Ketramos, because you will lose a life and draw a card from the escape cost being paid, draw a card, lose a life from the exiling of a card, and then presumably draw a card from the Cling to Dust itself, or possibly gain 3. So, Ketramos Cling to Dust could be a real way that Helix could stabilize. Here, you do just swing with Ketramos, provide a clock, pressure the opponent, and I think we just carry on. Some other notable top decks, something like Dam, Stock Up, or Thunder Trap Trainer could all be very solid ways for Aminatou to stabilize. However, none of those are here. Scalding Tarn will be able to fetch for Mystic Sanctuary, so theoretically, Disruptor Flute is being removed. Ooh. I don't think you bother. I think it's way too risky for Esper to lose 3 life here. All of these cards are great cards, by the way. It's just way too much of a risk. Notably, freeing Aminatou allows Aminatou to downtick to, for example, do Oath of Kaya or Bogart Bog. Either one, any sort of downtick will trigger Ketramos and drawing, basically having everything draw a card. Okay, so Orchestra Bowmasters is being used. Arena of Glory. Okay, that is pretty good. Okay, immediately using Bowmasters, ping Helix a little bit. Smack for 5. Or for 3. Yep, that makes sense. So, because of Bowmasters, Helix will get pinged every time there is an exiling from Ketramos. However, that might not matter. Obviously, here you kind of swing with Ketramos first, force the double block, Um, okay. Looks like I'm going to get timed out eventually. I can easily rejoin, but if you see me get timed out, that's why. Okay, Tetramos, double block here, keep Orcish Bowmasters alive. Free the illusion, gain 4. I think it's just objectively correct for Helix to get rid of Disruptor Flute. Helix will draw a card. It's also worth noting. Oh, nice. Okay, get rid of Aminatou. Esper has 9 cards in their deck, which is legitimately Ripples will kill them in 3 turns. Helix should draw a card here. Let's see if... No, they missed the trigger. Okay. That is what happens. Oh, never mind. All is well. They remembered. Okay. Croxa. Interesting. Croxa Arena of Glory is brutal. However, Go Gadget Counterspell. Oh no. That that might be game. If Helix is... Yeah. That might just be game. Let's see. Block with Illusion. Game 2 from... No, that's game. Wow. Okay. Just when I thought Helix was going to stabilize and possibly win, that is honestly Ripples for you. Just the sheer power of that in a deck with 2 Titans. It means that they just can't compete. And that, folks, is Tiny Titans. That is all of Tiny Titans. The finals goes to Esper, who I believe this is their second time winning Tiny Titans. So previously, they have managed to win. Esper is one of the best players on the Discord server for a reason, and we just saw why. Now, obviously, second place is nothing to scoff at. Both players are incredibly talented, and this could easily go in either way. I like to reiterate that the bracket is not a definitive, this player is better than the other player, right? Frankly, there was a decent chance Esper was knocked out round 1. I was their opponent, and it was a very close 2 and 3. So, had things gone differently, I might have taken Esper's place in the finals. But that is just how the cookie crumbles. Sometimes you draw just what you need, or in this case, mill just what you need, and you end up winning for it. That's obviously not to say that Esper's win is not justified. Obviously, we saw there just expert piloting, expert deck building. Esper is very much deserving of this first place. But just some food for thought that this is not a definitive ranking of players or decks. This is one snapshot into one simulation of how this bracket could have gone. But obviously, it's not worth dwelling on the what ifs. Um, and yeah, Audrey, I don't believe that momentum breaker sacking would have been enough. Uh, they were at pretty low. I don't know. Maybe it would have been enough, but either it wasn't seen or it wouldn't have mattered. Okay, 5 damage going into 4 life. Then yeah, it would have been barely enough. Yeah, but even then, I don't think. Yeah, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe that could have been a decisive misplay. But that, nonetheless, that is Tiny Titans 2026. Oh, neat. All right. Well, I thank you guys for watching, and I will be seeing y'all around. Stay tuned. Tomorrow there is a stream. It's not a Tiny Titan stream, obviously, but it is a. We're going to be ranking every card and analyzing every card that is Tiny Legal in Lorwyn. But it should be a fun time. It'll be me and Esper commentating. So if you have the time, I definitely recommend checking it out. Otherwise, there's plenty of content on the way. I'll see you guys later. See ya.